So in this video, I want to talk about Solo Leveling, because with every show that comes out throughout every anime season, there is always those shows that are heavily hyped by a lot of very enthusiastic, whether it's light novel or manga or manhwa fans. And in this case, Solo Leveling did definitely get a lot of hype. But I want to be very clear, I do not like the word overhyped. And the reason being, is I spoke about in many videos, but to kind of give a short summary, is the reason why I don't like the word overhyped is because it's a word that I feel like is used as a definitive fact. Like if I sat there and said I'm really hyped for Moonlit Fantasy second season or Mushoku Tensei second season Core 2, and I sat there and said, yeah, I'm really excited, I can't wait for this. And then it comes out and then someone goes, oh, you overhyped this. That's their way of saying, well, I don't agree with your opinion of your excitement for this. You're not allowed to be excited. Thus, you're somehow deceptively lying by hyping something up that you're excited about. It's one of the reasons why I don't like the word overhyped, because it's used as a weapon to basically say, you're not allowed to be excited for this show because I don't like that show and my opinion's more valid than yours. At the end of the day, if you love a show, you love it. You don't, and there's nothing wrong with either or either. So in that case with Solo Leveling, if you don't like the anime, that is perfectly fine. And if you love it, that's perfectly fine as well. But I wanted to bring that up because that is something that always gets used in the comment sections or X or Reddit or wherever you go. People always use the whole, this is overhyped. That's just you saying you don't like it as much as other people, but it does not mean their hype is invalidated because of your dissatisfaction with something. And I think that's the thing that some anime fans and AniTubers need to learn, because I see it quite a lot. It doesn't mean that I won't use it in the title of a video to try and clickbait some angry kids, but I personally don't really like the word itself and what comes from it. So, talking about Solo Leveling, I've seen some AniTubers out there in some parts of the anime community very dissatisfied with Solo Leveling. And I've watched some videos out there, and honestly, I just feel like it always comes down to them just saying, I don't like the premise of the story, they find it boring. But they then give this long-winded, breaking down something, and then when you actually listen to them break it down, it actually has no rule. There's no structure to what they're trying to say. It's like, one thing I saw was someone complaining that there's a leveling structure in it, and because there's leveling and ranks and all that kind of stuff in it, thus means that the story is lazy because there's no character building or world building. And I'm like, are we watching the same show here? Because in the recent episode, one of the things that I really loved was that even though the main protagonist is seen as an absolute stud or a badass, like he's really strong, he still allows his own emotions to control him to the point where he basically almost got himself killed. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that he saw a reward, which was the elixir of life, that he was and so far in the story, because again, I haven't read the source material, is planning to get that and give it to his mother to save her. And so his emotional attachment to that is instant, is just hones in on it. He's like, all right, I'm going to do this. But he throws himself in a situation that is extremely dangerous. He's been extremely irrational. He's been very much not cautious. And it really shows that he's actually a human being with emotions. I actually like the fact that he's flawed and made an absolute blunder of a mistake. Instead of being cautious and sitting there thinking, maybe I should get some levels, maybe I should, suss out these systems, get some better equipment, whatever you can do, or try and find some alternative way of making things a little bit safer and being more cautious. He ran headfirst into this situation and almost got himself killed. Then he realized, hey, I need to be a little bit more cautious. That to me shows that there is character development, character flaws, and there's stakes at large. He has got a goal in mind. He wants something really badly because of one of his family members being extremely sick. There was the money situation. He's kind of resolved that, but still she is sick. And so that's one of the things that I really like about the story. So seeing people say, oh, because it's got a leveling system in it, that means the story's lazy. And I'm like, well, you're entitled to think that, but I would thoroughly disagree with the fact that it shows the main protagonist definitely has some emotional drive. I also do like the fact that his confidence has built up very quickly, and that is something that's very realistic. If you suddenly became much more physically physique, like, it's not like his looks have changed so much. He's refined himself a little bit. His chin's a bit sharper, so he's ready to stab someone with that. That's a joke, because there's a meme that I posted about it. His chin getting longer and longer as he levels. But you can see he's getting a bit more confident when he's talking to people. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, yeah, he's building himself up. That actually happens with a lot of people that go to the gym and stuff, or do exercise, or build some type of hobby with social skills that come with it. They become a little bit more confident in themselves. Sometimes they become a little bit too arrogant, but I just wanted to point that out. That is also a realistic component as well. And then also the repercussions with the killing as well, which also is another part that I think is interesting, because it shows him justifying murder. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. He murdered some people. They were planning to murder him, but does two wrongs make a right? That's up for you to decide. But it shows that he's trying to rationalize that, and will the systems and the games push him even further to maybe murder someone that's done nothing wrong to him? Maybe do it to someone that maybe is a little bit shady or a bit of a douchebag, and try and push that line. I'm very curious to see where that goes in the story as well. But again, going back to my point about the game mechanics and systems, and hearing that, oh, well, it's used in isekais and power fantasies all the time. Well, to start with, this is not technically an isekai. I know some people could argue that you join into alternative worlds, but I don't see this as a normal, typical isekai, where you're transported to an alternative world permanently, and that is your permanent adventure. It's like a isekai drop shoot kind of, you just drop in, out, in, out. So it is technically, you could argue, an isekai, but I don't see it as a normal, typical isekai. I don't really care at the end of the day. I just wanted to point that out, because I know I'm going to get people in the comments going, this is what an isekai means. These are coming from the same people that say Oshinoko is an isekai. So anyone that says Oshinoko is an isekai, you lose any opinion on the matter. Just saying. So congratulations to that one AniTuber. You don't have an opinion. But without me sounding like a douche, going back to the point of the sort of gaming mechanics, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that a lot of manga writers and light novel writers that do these kinds of stories are gamers themselves, and they use a lot of different gaming mechanics to intertwine into the story. But implying that every single isekai or power fantasy is pure gaming mechanics, I think is disingenuous, because I think in a sense life itself is a game mechanic in itself. Like, you look at things like currency, you have that in games, currency, banks, money. Then you have, like, you say, oh, but that's just normal economy. Let me get to the point. Then you also have things like ranks in society. But again, because it's structured behind a UI, they see that as a gaming mechanic. But in a sense, you could say, hey, we are living in a game in itself. That's why a lot of people always joke, are we in the Matrix? Because there's this whole thing of, like, we've got money, we've got ranks in society, we've got statuses, all that kind of stuff, but there's just no UI behind it. Does that not mean that maybe we have levels as well? I mean, some people do imply that we have levels in our own self, and if you spend enough time and hours doing something, you become good at something, like an expert. I can't remember the exact amount of hours, but someone said in a statistic, I think it was a research paper, that they're like, if you spend X amount of hours working on something solid, you become basically an expert in it, because you've spent so much time honing that skill. That to me is like EXP, but there's just no UI behind it. So to me, the thing that I find that's interesting about isekais and power fantasies that do have level mechanics, it's more just they put a structure to it, so you can see the progress, rather than it kind of being more of a, hey, they just got slightly better, and you can maybe notice it in the way they're using their ability. But it's a bit more harder to kind of contextualize in a writing format, or even an anime format or a manga format, so they put level mechanics into it. But I don't think isekais and power fantasies have that much of it. I mean, yes, there is a lot of, like, guild systems with, like, tiers and ranks. Like, think of, like, Goblin Slayer, with the whole going up in ranks after you complete a certain amount of quests and all that kind of stuff. And again, that's a game mechanic in itself. You go to board, you go to a quest thing, but that in itself is like real life. You set yourself personal goals. You go, okay, I need to do this today. That's like a quest. That's just you assigning yourself something that you need to do. So to me, I think game mechanics is always part of stuff like this, is because it's a part of us as well. And so I know someone's going to argue like a massive paragraph of why I don't make any sense, but to me, in my own mind, it makes sense, because life itself, you set yourself objectives, you set yourself goals, you gain experience in knowledge and in honing your skills, whether it's through just knowledge itself or honing like more handcrafting kind of things, practical kind of thing. life itself is a video game. It's just when you've got power fantasies and isekai stories like this, it's more used as an UI to allow us to receive better information in the story. So I think it's important in that sense, but you don't have to do that in every story. I do enjoy it when they do it, and I don't think having it in a system diminishes the story itself, because I've seen that argument. But you could look at something like Mushoku Tensei or Goblin Slayer, or I was trying to think of a couple of others, but those two are definitely good ones that you can use, where they don't have direct levels, but they do have structures in things like adventurers and all that kind of stuff, where they do go up ranks. But you could get rid of that system altogether, but that's something that's just part of a hierarchy system. Like, you earn, it's like going into a job. You start off as a help desk, you're a level 1, you go to level 2, you go to level 3, then maybe you're a manager for a certain floor, or then you're a building manager, or you're a regional manager, or you're the manager for an entire state or entire country, or you're the CEO. Like, you've got ranks in society in that sense as well. So it's hard to not have those kind of gaming mechanics, in my opinion, when everything in our life is a gaming mechanic. I'm just saying. That's just how I see life itself. Maybe I'm absolutely insane. Tell me in the comment section down below in a nice, civil, constructive manner without belittling me for my crazy wonko ideas. But I just think it's kind of silly to sit there and say Solo Leveling is a bad anime because it has levels and structure. To be very clear, it's called Solo Leveling. I made that joke because I kind of thought to myself, well, what if the others had levels as well? But the main protagonist is the only one that has the leveling and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like everyone has levels. Yeah, there is like the whole guild system as well, but I'm kind of interested to see where that goes to, because there's so much potential of where the guilds and recruitments and all that kind of stuff goes as well. So I don't think it hurts the story. I've been loving Solo Leveling, but I also think it's just not for everyone because of the style of the story that it is, and because it's a main protagonist, it's kind of a bit of a stud muffin that's kind of going in an adventure on his own. A lot of people kind of correlate that to like SAO style story, but I think it's very unique in what it's trying to achieve. I think also because it's got real world elements with guns and all that kind of stuff, and with fantasy kind of stuff, a lot of people kind of find that a bit weird. So I think a lot of outside people going into it are finding it a little bit too different, I guess, in a way, which is kind of funny, because that's one complaint I always see with these kinds of shows, is that when writers try to do something unique, they get punished for it, but when they don't do something unique and they try and create something more formulaic, they then get criticized for it. It's why I always had that kind of video title called Doomed If You Do, Doomed If You Don't, because it doesn't really matter what a lot of these writers do, there's always someone out there to criticize them for being too crazy or not crazy enough. You look at the reincarnated as a sword, reincarnated as a vending machine, reincarnated as a pig, reincarnated as a slime, reincarnated as a spider. Some of the people are going to sit there and go, oh, but those aren't that bad, like spider and slime. But I'm like, at the end of the day, from an outside perspective, looking at that, someone's going to go, really? Someone reincarnated as a slime? Ugh. Reincarnated as a spider? Ugh. Washing machine? Ugh. But when you get down to the story itself, there's some interesting things that you can kind of do. I think there's one being reincarnated as an apple as well. So, yeah, I think it's good to try and do different things. Even if the story doesn't work, try. And I think that's the big problem, is there's a lot of authors are getting told that you're not allowed to try new things because it might be too outlandish. And so that's why I like stories like Solo Leveling, because to be honest, I think the story premise and the kind of mechanics that they're putting all together works really nicely. But people are complaining that, oh, they have this in it and they have that in it, it just doesn't work. And it's like, I think that's just your personal taste, and that's perfectly fine. If you don't like it, that's cool. But I think one of the issues with animes every season is when a series does get hyped up by a lot of people, so it's the amount of people that are hyping it up, they see that as overhyped, because a lot of people being excited about something must mean it must be good. But again, you can find a lot of hidden gems that suddenly become really big when a lot of people find it and are exposed to it. I would say there are a fair few dozen of those that come out every season, where there's always those hidden gems. And those are the animes I always love going looking for as well, because when you find a good hidden gem and you bring it to the world and you bring it to the audience, it gives them something new. It opens a new world and a new possibility of interesting stories that you can delve into. So again, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. The ramblings of a madman. Again, if you like this kind of content, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.